With the Grandmaster node finally becoming available this week, we're going to dive into the best way to deal with the brand new Battlegrounds Behemoth Grandmaster that's entering the GM rotation for the very first time. This includes loadout recommendations, positioning strategies, enemy spawn tips, and how to effectively deal with the boss and those terrifying threshers to make this significantly easier. I'm Above, and if you enjoyed today's video, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into it. To kick things off, this GM is a bit of a unique challenge. It's actually a pretty short Grandmaster with just 2 areas in total, but the strike itself is pretty much chaos from start to finish. There are tons of champions, banes, and enemy spawns to deal with, all while balancing an extremely tanky boss that can one-shot you if you're not careful. So we're gonna come equipped to handle the chaos and take advantage of the weekly stasis and arc surge. With that said, this is only accessible via the Conqueror node at the moment, and these surges will likely be different when it comes around as the weekly featured Nightfall, but I'm confident that our team comp and loadouts we prepared for you today will perform extremely well regardless. Diving into my recommended team comp, we went with one of each class to give you guys an option regardless of the class that you main. We pretty much went prismatic across the board, as the combination of light and dark abilities is incredibly powerful for both crowd control and ad clear throughout this Grandmaster. Titan should prioritize a consecration melee build as your group's primary source of ad clear, with either Syntheseps, Hoyle, or a class item that has both to make this even stronger. I also recommend the Glacier Nade to instantly fill the dark portion of your Transcendence bar, as freezing and shattering just 2 enemies almost fills it entirely. I also recommend Glacial Quake for boss damage thanks to the weekly surge, and its ability to crowd control not only enemies, but absolutely delete the boss's health bar. For Warlocks, I recommend Getaway Artist with a stasis turret build for crowd control purposes, since the amount of enemies that spawn per wave is actually pretty insane. And our hunters can either rock a traditional Orpheus rig build, or go with Prismatic Tether and a Gallinorger Falcon class item to constantly feed your team orbs, offer additional crowd control, and provide a debuff against the boss. As for loadouts, our exotics were dedicated to the heavy slot, with Xenophage, Grand Overture, and Anarchy being our picks of choice here. Xeno is incredible for insta-killing the threshers that can cause serious problems if left alive too long. Grand Overture is great for burst damage thanks to the weekly surge, and for some reason benefits more from these ammo crates than any other weapon does. We got just 4 shots of Xeno and Anarchy from these crates, while Grand Overture received full refills, which really helps with nuking priority targets later in the strike. Anarchy is great for the final boss to provide passive tick damage while you deal with ad spawns, and allows you to spawn trap enemies out of drop pods. The rest of your weapons should be dedicated to ad clear, filling your prismatic bar, and dealing with champions. Lost Signal and Velocity Baton are both top tier picks for this, as they not only crowd control effectively, they also supercharge your Transcendence bar, whether you need light or dark abilities based on your loadouts. Scouts are the go-to pick for barriers, while we relied on Getaway Artist freeze and consecration to stun unstops. Key armor mods include Arc Resist and Concussive Dampener to counter the boss's highly lethal shotgun attack, and your choice of either a Void or Solar Resist in your remaining slot. You'll also want heavy ammo finders and scouts to help generate heavy ammo, a solar holster if you're running Xenophage, and heavy ammo scavengers for even more ammo on pickup. You'll obviously want to tailor the rest of your mods to your builds based on the class that you're running, but those are the most essential mods across all 3 classes. Diving right into the Nightfall, before you push forward, you'll want to immediately prioritize the thresher that spawns directly in front of you, and once dead, you can push up the hill on the right hand side and use your Glacial Nade to freeze the champion on this high ground. This area provides cover from the ads below you, which allows your combination of area denial frames and abilities to fill your Transcendence bar rather quickly, at which point you can pop them and aggressively attack the champions below you. The Vex champ will always be a barrier hobgoblin, while the Cabal champs throughout this GM are completely RNG between barriers and unstops. Once clear, drop pods will begin raining down in front of you, but as long as your team is cycling abilities properly, these enemies should be pretty easy to deal with. The only thing to note here is that you do not want to push up past this rock, as the closer Cabal pod spawns will kill you if you do so. You'll need to kill a champion, a bane, and a marked enemy, at which point the first access key will drop and move the next wave of enemy spawns to the hill on your left. Drop pods will begin raining from the sky once again, with a second Thresher spawning directly behind you. Make sure your Xeno user saves ammo for this, as this one can easily take you by surprise and send your team back to orbit. Once dead, I like to hang out between this pillar and the ball structure near the top of the hill, as you're safe from the drop pods and have eyes on all 3 spawn points. Consecration goes insanely hard here as long as you stay out of the drop pod's radius, especially when paired with Tether that sits between all 3 spawns. These waves will include 2 champions and a high value target per access key, and once clear, you can pick them up and despawn the remaining enemies. There are 2 ammo crates you can use to restock on ammo, and make sure to interact with the access granted terminal before pushing forward. This section is much more open than the last portion of the Grandmaster, with separate ad spawns dedicated to each of the 3 targeting arrays. And depending on how confident you are, you can either split up your team to manage these spawn points on your own, or use this high ground to plink away as a group from cover. Once clear, high value targets will spawn on the dirt road in front of you, and can either be champions or Bane mini bosses that spawn power cells when you kill them. These cells can be used to destroy the arrays, and doing this 3 times in total will complete this portion of the encounter. But unlike the Threshers from the opening area, these dropships don't have turrets on them, so your main focus will always be ad clear. Once all 3 arrays have been destroyed, you'll be prompted to start the Rite of Proving, and once you do so, the boss fight begins. This boss fight has 3 parts, and as you complete each one of them, Commander Dracus will retreat further up the hill. However, overextending to chase the boss is the easiest way to get killed here, as enemies can spawn all around you. Cabal also have a tendency to sporadically teleport around this arena due to the uneven terrain, which can definitely catch you off guard. But that's where the left side cliff face comes in handy. While your Titan is running around using the perfectly balanced Consecration build, the other members of your fire team can easily hang out here and use these rocks for cover, making this area much more manageable. Glacial Quake and Grand Overture absolutely melt this boss, and when you throw Tether into the mix, the damage sharing offers incredible ad clear as well. For the first wave of the boss, prioritize melting him as quickly as possible. This can be done with little to no risk, while the second and third health gates are much more dangerous. Commander Dracus will spawn a barrier shield halfway through the second and third health bars, making him immune until it's destroyed. And since this boss wields a shotgun, this is easily the riskiest part of the Nightfall. But this is where high damage weapons like Grand Overture and Xenophage come in. Once broken and the rest of the second health bar has been depleted, the boss will retreat upwards towards the entrance of the land tank, at which point 2 more champions will spawn in. These will need to die before the boss becomes damageable again, and you'll want to take note of just how many enemies are spawning around you. Once again, stick to the left hand side and clear ads from a safe distance, and once the boss reaches the 1/6 health gate, he'll spawn another immunity barrier that you'll need to break one last time, allowing you to melt the boss, making the Behemoth Battlegrounds Grandmaster a GG. If you found this guide useful, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated, and I'll be running GM helps all week long over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/above. Anyways guys, that's it from me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace!